because retention drives attraction. For example, if you want to hire, if we take the example of word of mouth, like if you have a good culture that everyone is performing well, that like you have engaged employees, they are happy about their work, they are happy about their colleagues, they are happy about their manager, they will talk about where they work to their friends, to like in private, in public, like wherever they are being asked about where they work.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Recruiting Revolution, Season 2. Our guest today is J.Y Delmotte from California, USA. J.Y is an innovative entrepreneur with 5-time startup founder and with over 9 years of experience in the startup space, and is also badged as LinkedIn Top Workplace Culture Voice. Presently, J.Y is the co-founder of BuddiesHR with a mission to provide best working experience for their employees and multiple cool features on Slack, which we're going to be talking about, in the further of our podcast. Welcome, J.Y, and thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you too for receiving me. It's really an honor, and it's my first podcast. So it's really an honor for me to be here.
Thank you so much. To start off, can you tell us more about your journey in the startup space?
Yeah, sure. So I think I've co-founded my first startup when I was like 22-year-old. And so I co-founded like 5 startups. Like the 5 count is only the one that succeeded, let's say, for some time, because there was many more projects that didn't even succeed or get at least one customer. So lots of experience in going from 0 to 1. And I got lucky enough in my entrepreneur career, if I can say like that, to be funded by Y Combinator, so the incubator in the US. And that's where I got most of my HR experience, if I would say, because there we were able to raise a 6 million seed round and had to hire like a team of 15 people so hiring, managing, discovering, managing people for the first time. And that's where I actually figured out that I love people related topics. And that's why we jumped on BuddiesHR with one of my co-founders when we left Palette. Because it was kind of obvious for us that we wanted to innovate in that space. And then it was kind of market condition as well for BuddiesHR, because we interviewed HR leaders to start the startup right this time, not try to build something no one wants. So we interviewed about 60 HR leaders, and we saw surprisingly that hybrid companies still figuring out how to handle employee engagement stuff. So it was kind of surprising to us, but it was also a good news for us because this was exactly the space we wanted to be in. And the second thing about the market is that the future generation and the Gen Z that is entering the market needs more initiatives for employee engagement. So that's kind of the perfect cross between what we wanted and what the market is expecting. About the BuddiesHR journey, maybe we started as a birthday tool. So not everyone knows this story, but we started as Billy Birthday first. And we were celebrating birthdays and work anniversaries on Slack. And then we moved to recognition because we figured out that birthday and celebration weren't $1 billion company idea. So we needed to pivot somehow. So we moved to recognition, and then we encountered some blocks regarding when we were in sales call or customer discovery calls, because we kept hearing that recognition is not a platform, it's a feature of an engagement platform. So it was kind of clear from this moment that we needed to build an engagement platform, including the birthday app that we had, the recognition that we just shipped, and that's how BuddiesHR was born. And then we kind of build our mission around helping HR teams provide the best employee experience to their employees.
Got it. That at 22, I think that's great and crazy at the same time. So what inspired you to start a startup at 22? Was there an instance, or what inspired you to start your own organization at such a young age?
That's a good question. I think that I've always been creative, because before that I was really a musician, passionate about music. I wanted to be singer, DJ, musician, etc. So it's kind of, I had this creative thing, but I also had a strong bonding for math at school. And so it was kind of hard to find a path that would connect the two. So during my studies, I decided to drop like the music part. It was kind of heartbreaking to me at that time, but I needed to make a choice. And a new passion came at this time, and it was all about like developing coding. So it was a new passion that just came. And so it was the first passion that I had that has the potential to do some money with it. So that's how I got started with entrepreneurship, because I still wanted to create things on my own. So that's how it happened.
Got it. That's amazing. Also, you mentioned that you interviewed around 60 HR leaders before starting BuddiesHR. So,
Yes.
what were your, what's your point of view on understanding, what were their, pain points, and what do you think were the top you mentioned, you saw were common?
Yes, so there are plenty of pain points that they have. I talk about the one in the employee engagement side because this is the one I ask the most question. But there is one that is obvious for everyone, is the payroll thing. So outside of employee engagement, that is one of the huge pain in HR. Like there is plenty of solutions on the market, but still it's a huge pain for them. But yeah, on the employee engagement side, I'd say that number one is figuring out employee engagement in remote or hybrid companies, because since COVID, they are still figuring out their policies. It's kind of hard to I think it's harder when you had a company that was in office and the COVID hit, and now you need to know where you want to position yourself between full in office, remote, hybrid. Maybe your employee had new habits that you don't want to break, etc. It's easier if you launch today a new company and you say, we are remote, we are only going to hire remote, or we are in office, we are only going to hire in office people. So that the policy is clear, but for the oldest company, it's kind of hard. Then I would say it's like the adoption rate of employees of the HR tools. And most of the time they purchase software and they expect all the employees to sign up. And you know how it is, you need to remember your password. What is the platform name? You connect only once a quarter or once a year. So you cannot be like, oh, you don't remember it. It's like, yeah, I only need it once a year. So I can forget the name of the platform, the email I used, the password, etc. So yeah, the adoption rate drops the more HR tools you have. And I'd say the modularity / all-in-one, it's kind of two opposite words, but it goes on the same bucket, because HR people want everything under one roof, quoting them. But at the same time, they want the modularity to pay only for what they use. So if they use only one feature out of 10, they want to pay for it. And actually, it's very rare to encounter a software that provides this. Most of the time you pay 10 or 15 bucks per employee and you use just 10% of the feature and you're really frustrated about it.
Got it. You mentioned about surveys and everything and working remotely. So, culture is more important now than it was ever. When, COVID hit and remote and hybrid working started, how do you think that, culture is playing a role in the growth of the companies? You've interviewed so many HRs, leaders, so you know the whole idea of it. How do you think?
Yeah, a growing company is definitely a hard task. On the HR side, it's all about onboarding new people and ensuring people are not leaving your company for bad reasons, so management, culture, etc. So yeah, I'd say, on the hiring side, I've been doing lots of stuff myself. I'm not sure I'm the most experienced one to answer those topics, but for the culture and the retention one, because I'd say that retention, in my opinion, is more important because retention drives attraction. For example, if you want to hire, if we take the example of word of mouth, if you have a good culture that everyone is performing well, that you have engaged employees, they are happy about their work, they are happy about their colleagues, they are happy about their manager, they will talk about where they work to their friends, to in private, in public, wherever they are being asked about where they work. So that's the first cool effect of having a great culture. And the second one I'd say is employer brand. because like it's no more a pain point to ask for employees to be interviewed, to put some links or videos on your job description. Because when you have a good culture, you will naturally find volunteers. You just have to ask the question once, and you will also have good reviews on websites like Glassdoor to see like what the culture looks like in a given company. And yeah.
Got it. Also, you are an advocate for remote work. How do you think that organizations can maintain culture and connection in remote work setup? Because we are not meeting face to face, and people kind of a problem while communicating working remotely. So how do you think culture can be maintained at remote work, and also how BuddiesHR is helping in that?
So for the first part of the question, I think it's all about going back to the roots of HR, so surveying your people, because like if you run your survey and you figure out that people want to go to the office, like it's really easy to find a solution when you have the data. And so I think that lots of companies are forgetting this good practice of surveying people. Because if you see that people want to go to the office, then it's easy. You just rent an office. If not, then you redirect the budget to the remote stipend so that they have a proper remote setup. But still, you still have to decide on things for other people, but you need to accommodate to the majority. An example is to define the frequency to meet regularly, because when you are fully remote, you still need to meet to create stronger team bondings. And you need to find like a frequency that might be okay for everyone. You will always have people that find that is too much, other people that would say like it's not enough. But it really depends to your people and your company size, because of course when you have lots of people to move to from like potentially anywhere to one place in the world, it's kind of difficult. So depending on your size, if you're big, you can do a monthly meeting per country and a semi-annual meeting when you have everyone in the company. If you're a startup, that's what we are doing in our previous company, like a quarterly meeting with the whole company is enough. And then you can also sponsor people that live nearby to meet and to actually pay for like the food that they're going to eat, all the extra work activities. Like if you want to have a good culture, you need to invest in it, and counterintuitively, you're not going to save a lot if you release your office rent. You're going to save it, like don't get me wrong, but you have to invest in your people and the activities that they are doing to build stronger bonds if you want the remote and the hybrid setup to work properly.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that BuddiesHR is doing that meeting quarterly. So on Slack, I wanted to understand like what all things do you have on Slack, which I saw.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So at BuddiesHR, so maybe first a word about the culture. For us, we divide the culture in two buckets, so the engagement bucket and the performance one. For now at BuddiesHR, we only handle the engagement part, and the performance part will start tackling it in Q2. So we'll ship our first app during the following months. So stay tuned for this. But regarding the engagement, like how do we do engagements? It's four things. Number one is by making sure everyone is recognized. So it's really, I think it's really the basics of like how human works. Like you need to be acknowledged that you did something good to be satisfied about what you did. If no one knows about it, like it's kind of okay, if my good work is not noticed, then why doing it the right way and within the deadline? Second thing is about making sure people are, celebrated, etc. Like it's all about birthdays, work anniversaries, creating bondings around those events. And then by connecting regularly, so it can be virtual. So we have a module for this. It's kind of a random coffee app that is a bit smarter to ensure you connect with the right people. And as an HR, you can also define some policy. Like if you want, for example, like one classic example is that you'd like your customer success team to talk more with your engineering team for obvious reasons, so that they know better. Like the engineering will know better about like the front line, and the CS will know better about the product subtleties. And this is something you can set up in your like random coffee chats. Like if you want a certain population to meet another one, you can set this up, and that's really powerful because it's like two benefits for one app used. And also it's about making sure everyone's voice is heard, especially in remote, because when you don't see someone, at the coffee machine, etc., it's kind of hard to make sure your voice is heard. So especially in remote, it's very useful, and that's also something we are doing with polls and surveys. And I'd say that one particular thing that we do is that we are doing all of this within Slack, so we don't have any external platform login, etc. And this is because Slack, when you're remote or hybrid, is where culture happens. So that totally makes sense to be integrated within it. And that solves one of the pain that I mentioned earlier about like your employees don't need to log into one more platform, like everything is within Slack.
That is interesting, actually. Also, when we talk about culture and, of course, AI in this time, like in 2023, it was everything was about AI. So how do you think AI can contribute to, fostering a better culture and wellness within the organization? Do you think it can help?
Yes, sure. That's a very good question, actually, because AI is kind of a buzzword right now. Like it's been a year now, but it still is, because people are figuring out. So on the software side, people are figuring out how to properly integrate AI within their product without like putting the AI in the product to say that we are AI powered. So it's kind of hard to to do it for the good reason. And so that's what we are doing. We are just waiting for a good use case. We do have some in mind, but we need to build some things before we can integrate the AI, because the AI makes sense when you have a good data set. And to have a good data set, you need to collect the data. So you need to build the app that will get this data and then run the AI on top of it. But I have few examples on how AI could contribute to fostering culture and wellness. Maybe on the culture side, I think it will create more opportunities to connect. And that's really interesting regarding remote and hybrid work. One example that I can give is you need to find an expert, either like a professional skill or something that is more personally related, like music, something like that, for a personal professional project. Like how do you figure out in your company who is good at doing something? And if you have an AI, you can ask to the AI. The AI can ask questions to people in the company that might have this, or if you have like an employee profile, they already know where to look for this information. So it can basically create more opportunities to connect, and also it can make recommendation to HR. One example that I like to give for this is, let's say you have 20 or 30 people in NYC that have pets, that are pet parents. You might want to create a Slack channel with those 20, 30 people for them to share the pictures of their cute pets. And so that's actually something the AI could recommend to help you create internal communities among your company. And on the wellness side, one thing that it's kind of hard because it's kind of science related, so we would need more studies on it, but I would say prevent burnout by identifying the early signs, by being able to check the logs, activities of an employee, like the performance, like, going on the performance side, going on the engagement side, and kind of giving recognition to the HR team maybe, or to the manager of this person. And also to better, like, to have a personal coach as an employee in a company, to have a better work-life balance. Like the AI could be conscious of what your calendars look like and could suggest, if you come 30 minutes earlier today or tomorrow, you might be able to leave earlier because you have an appointment you cannot miss on Thursday, etc. So it might help you based on your policies. Of course, you would upload like your company policies and your company values, and then the AI would automatically recommend things to the employee based on their calendars, etc. activities. And the last one that is both culture and wellness is about like management coaching, because it's really hard to be a good manager, especially when like for me, it was the first time, and I had so many questions about was a good manager. And I guess that sometimes you don't ask yourself the question because you don't have time. And like you're not aware that you need a coach. And this is something that is huge in companies because you are promoted until you are not good enough to be promoted anymore, but you're still not having the right skill set to execute your job. And so that's a huge issue in most companies, big companies. And so I think that using AI to coach your managers with your internal policy and your company values in mind would be something very powerful for your culture.
All right. I think yes, good leadership and good management is the key to a good culture.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So as my last question, like what do you think like future of work looks like in terms of anything like culture or recruitment or hiring or new tools, in 2024? Like what do you think the future looks like?
So it will be hard to say exactly what will happen in 5 years, but if I had 3 wishes, I'd say like people will work smarter, not necessarily harder, especially because like HR teams and leadership will become more aware of the parts employee wellness experience plays in like the success of a company. So I expect people to say, okay, we need to prioritize what's really important and work really smarter, be conscious of our time, and stop doing anything, and including things that might not have a huge impact and putting people in burnout. So that's the number one thing. Number two, I'd say more flexibility on where you want to work. So I'm, of course, a remote, I don't know how to say it, not a remote guru, but a remote fan. I was remote even before COVID, so it was a really strong need for me. But I just want people to work wherever they want to work, whether it's in office, remote, or hybrid, but just being able to choose what works for you and for your company. And last thing, I wish that people will pay more and more attention to employee experience in job description and job search, and that will probably reflect by ENPS being included in job description and be as important as salary in the criteria you have when you choose a new job.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. So yeah, J.Y, that concludes my question and our podcast. Thank you so much for joining on the podcast today.
You're welcome, and thank you again for inviting me.
The pleasure was all ours, actually. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.